In the dark corners of our society, a chilling phenomenon has emerged: the rise of evil among teenagers. Today, we delve into the disturbing world of the most evil teen school shooters. These individuals, once seemingly ordinary students, unleashed unimaginable horror upon their classmates and teachers. Salvador Ramos. On May 24, 2022, the Robb Elementary School shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, sent shockwaves through the nation. A former student, Salvador Ramos, unleashed a devastating attack that claimed the lives of 19 students and 2 teachers. In order to understand the tragic events that unfolded on the Robb Elementary School shooting day, it is crucial to delve into the background of the shooter, Salvador Ramos. Born and raised in Uvalde, Texas, Ramos had a troubled past that hinted at the darkness that would eventually consume him. On October 28, 2021, Salvador Ramos was withdrawn from Uvalde High School due to frequent absences. It was during his time at high school that signs of his violent tendencies began to emerge. Ramos had a history of being bullied, which left deep scars on his psyche. Ramos also had a strained relationship with his mother. 2 months before the shooting, he moved out of her house, adding to the growing list of personal conflicts in his life. The exact reasons for their strained relationship remain unclear, but it is evident that Ramos was grappling with deep-seated anger and resentment. As his anger festered, Ramos sought solace in the world of firearms. He purchased 2 rifles, including one with a Hellfire trigger device that increased the rate of fire. This acquisition, coupled with his stockpiling of ammunition, hinted at his sinister intentions. On May 14, 2022, just 10 days before the shooting, Ramos sent a private Instagram message hinting at his plans. The message, which went unnoticed or ignored, served as a chilling warning of the tragedy that was about to unfold. 3 days later, on May 17th, Ramos turned 18 the day before, and on that very day, he legally purchased a rifle from a local gun store. This purchase marked a turning point, as Ramos now had the means to carry out his deadly intentions. And so, on May 24, 2022, the day that would forever be etched in the memories of the Uvalde community, Salvador Ramos arrived at Robb Elementary School, armed and filled with rage. As the morning sun rose on May 24, 2022, Robb Elementary School buzzed with the innocent energy of young minds eager to learn. Little did they know that this would be a day forever etched in their memories as a day of unimaginable horror. Salvador Ramos, armed with his rifles and a heart filled with anger, made his way towards the school. As the first bell rang, signaling the start of the school day, Ramos unleashed his fury upon the unsuspecting students and staff of Robb Elementary. Chaos erupted as the sound of gunshots echoed through the hallways. Students and teachers ran for cover, desperately seeking safety amidst the terror that unfolded before their eyes. The hallways, once filled with laughter and the hustle and bustle of a typical school day, now became a scene of unimaginable horror. Law enforcement agencies swiftly responded to the scene, their sirens piercing through the air. However, the response from the officers on the ground would soon come under intense scrutiny. As the minutes turned into agonizing hours, officers waited outside the classroom where Ramos was located. The sound of gunshots continued to ring out, yet they hesitated to enter, unsure of what awaited them inside. Survivors would later recount the fear and desperation they felt as they waited for help to arrive. The minutes stretched into an eternity, and the lives of innocent children and dedicated educators hung in the balance. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, law enforcement officers made their way into the classroom. The confrontation between Ramos and the officers was swift and deadly. In the exchange of gunfire, Ramos was eventually shot and killed by members of the United States Border Patrol Tactical Unit. Paramedics rushed to the scene, tending to the wounded and providing much-needed medical assistance. The injured, both physically and emotionally, were transported to hospitals, their lives forever altered by the senseless violence that had unfolded within the walls of their school. The immediate aftermath of the shooting was a scene of heartbreak and grief. Families anxiously awaited news of their loved ones, praying for their survival. Community members rallied together, offering support and solace to those affected by the tragedy. Press conferences were held, and news outlets from around the nation descended upon Uvalde to report on the devastating events that had unfolded at Robb Elementary School. The shockwaves of the shooting reverberated far beyond the community, capturing the attention of the entire nation. Memorials and tributes sprung up throughout Uvalde as the community came together to honor the lives lost and to support the survivors. Candles were lit, flowers were laid, and tears were shed as the community grappled with the immense loss they had endured. In response to the shooting, Congress passed the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, a piece of legislation aimed at addressing the issues of gun control and law enforcement failures. President Joe Biden signed the act into law, vowing to protect the nation's children and prevent further acts of violence. The Robb Elementary School shooting left a scar on the Uvalde community that would never fully fully heal. Nicholas Jacob Cruz. Nicholas Jacob Cruz, a former student with a troubled history, unleashed a hail of bullets on his fellow students and staff. The shocking details of this senseless act of violence, coupled with the bravery of those who tried to protect their classmates, continue to haunt the survivors and the community. On February 14, 2018, tragedy struck Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The Parkland High School shooting, a horrifying event that shook the nation to its core, claimed the lives of 17 innocent people and left 17 others injured. It was a seemingly ordinary day at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Students filled the hallways, chatting and laughing, unaware of the tragedy that was about to unfold. Among them was Nicholas Jacob Cruz, a troubled former student with a history of disturbing behavior. Cruz had been expelled from the school due to disciplinary issues, but his presence still lingered in the minds of many. He had made violent and racist posts on social media, causing concern among his peers and school staff. Despite these warning signs, no one could have predicted the horror that was about to be unleashed. On February 14, 2018, as the school day progressed, Cruz arrived at the campus armed with a deadly arsenal. He carried an AR-15 style rifle, multiple magazines, and a heart filled with anger and resentment. Little did anyone know that this would be the day that forever changed the lives of the Parkland community. As the clock ticked closer to dismissal time, chaos erupted within the school's hallways. Cruz began his rampage, indiscriminately firing at students and staff. Panic and fear gripped the school as the sound of gunshots echoed through the corridors. Teachers and students scrambled to find shelter, desperately seeking safety from the hail of bullets. Some hid in classrooms, barricading doors and praying for the nightmare to end. Others ran for their lives, their hearts pounding with adrenaline and terror. Amidst the chaos, acts of heroism emerged. Teachers risked their lives to protect their students, shielding them from harm and guiding them to safety. Students showed incredible bravery, helping their classmates escape and offering comfort in the face of unimaginable horror. Outside the school, the scene was equally chaotic. Law enforcement agencies quickly responded to the reports of an active shooter. Police cars and ambulances flooded the area, their sirens piercing the air. Parents anxiously gathered near the school, desperate for news of their loved ones. Inside the building, the sound of gunfire continued. Cruz moved methodically through the school, leaving devastation in his wake. Lives were lost, dreams shattered, and innocence stolen. The Parkland community would never be the same again. Approximately 1 hour and 20 minutes after the shooting began, law enforcement apprehended Cruz. He was arrested, his weapon seized, and the immediate threat neutralized. The weight of his actions could not be denied. In the aftermath of the shooting, the community grappled with grief and anger. The pain of loss was immeasurable, and justice needed to be served. Nicholas Cruz pleaded guilty to all charges, acknowledging the devastation he had caused. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, ensuring that he would never walk free again. The Parkland High School shooting sent shockwaves through the nation, leaving a community shattered and a country grappling with the devastating loss of innocent lives. As the immediate chaos subsided, the aftermath of the tragedy began to unfold, revealing the profound impact it would have on the Parkland community and the wider gun control debate. In the wake of the shooting, the Parkland community rallied together to support one another and heal from the unimaginable trauma. Vigils were held to honor the lives lost, with candles illuminating the darkness and tears flowing freely. The names of the victims became etched in the hearts of a grieving nation. Lawsuits were filed against the school district and the federal government, seeking accountability for the failures that allowed such a tragedy to occur. Families of the victims sought justice and answers, demanding that steps be taken to prevent similar incidents in the future. The Broward County Sheriff's Office faced intense scrutiny and criticism for their handling of the response to the shooting. Questions were raised about the actions of the school resource officer, who was armed but did not enter the building during the attack. The failures in communication and coordination were laid bare, leading to the resignation of several officers and a call for reform within the department. The shooting ignited a national debate on gun control, with student survivors at the forefront of the movement for change. They refused to let their voices be silenced, demanding stricter gun control measures and criticizing politicians for offering condolences instead of taking meaningful action. Out of their determination and resilience, the March for Our Lives movement emerged as a powerful force, organizing protests and rallies across the country to advocate for legislative action. In response to the shooting, the Florida legislature passed the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act. This comprehensive legislation raised the minimum age for buying rifles to 21, established waiting periods and background checks, and banned bump stocks. It was a significant step towards preventing future tragedies, but the fight for comprehensive gun control reform was far from over. The Parkland shooting also had a ripple effect on the national stage. President Donald Trump directed the Department of Justice to issue regulations to ban bump stocks. Students and teachers scrambled to find safety. The sound of gunfire echoed through the hallways, leaving everyone in a state of shock and disbelief. But before that, it was a seemingly ordinary day at Santa Fe High School in Santa Fe, Texas, on May 18, 2018. Students arrived at the school, unaware of the tragedy that would soon unfold. Dimitrios Pagortzis, a 17-year-old student, walked through the halls, blending in with his peers. Little did anyone know that he carried a dark and deadly plan within him. As the morning progressed, the school buzzed with activity. Teachers prepared their lessons, and students chatted and laughed with one another. But amidst the seemingly normal atmosphere, a storm was brewing in the mind of Pagortzis. Pagortzis had gained access to the school's art complex, where he unleashed his violent rampage. Witnesses later reported that he had accessed the targeted classrooms through a damaged door window, exploiting a vulnerability in the school's security measures. This shocking revelation would later raise questions about the effectiveness of the school's safety protocols. Amidst the terror, a staff member pulled a fire alarm, triggering the school's evacuation procedures. Students and teachers hurriedly made their way out of the building, seeking refuge from the unfolding nightmare. However, little did they know that the danger was far from over. In a desperate attempt to protect themselves, a group of students barricaded themselves in a storage closet. They huddled together, praying for their lives and hoping for a swift end to the violence, but their sanctuary would soon be breached. Pagortzis, fueled by his sinister intentions, fired through the door of the storage closet, shattering the sense of safety that the students had desperately clung to. The sound of gunshots reverberated through the small space, leaving the students in a state of sheer terror. Amidst the chaos, the students displayed incredible bravery and resilience. Despite the danger they faced, they quickly sprang into action, providing first aid to the victims. Their quick thinking and compassion in the face of such horror would later be recognized as acts of heroism. As law enforcement officers and first responders rushed to the scene, a tense standoff ensued between Pagortzis and the school's police officers. Gunfire erupted once again as the shooter engaged in a shootout with the authorities. The sound of bullets echoed through the school, heightening the sense of fear and uncertainty. Eventually, Pagortzis surrendered, bringing an end to the terrifying ordeal. He was taken into custody, but the scars left by his actions would forever remain on the Santa Fe High School community. The victims of the shooting, both students and teachers, were later identified, and their names released to the public. Each life lost was a devastating blow to the community, leaving behind grieving families and shattered dreams. The impact of this tragedy would be felt far beyond the walls of Santa Fe High School. As the news of the shooting spread, the nation was once again confronted with the harsh reality of gun violence in schools. The incident sparked renewed discussions about the need for stricter gun control measures and improved school safety protocols. The Santa Fe Independent School District's active shooter plan and the presence of armed police officers on campus raised questions about their effectiveness in preventing such tragedies. Fundraisers and memorial events were organized to honor the lives lost and provide assistance to those affected by the tragedy. The outpouring of support from both within the community and across the nation was overwhelming. Donations poured in, demonstrating the resilience and compassion of humanity in the face of unimaginable tragedy. In response to the shooting, the Santa Fe Independent School District and other educational institutions across the nation reevaluated their safety protocols. The incident highlighted the need for comprehensive active shooter training and improved security measures. Schools implemented stricter access controls, increased the presence of armed personnel, and conducted regular drills to prepare students and staff for potential emergencies. The Santa Fe High School shooting also brought attention to the importance of mental health support and prevention efforts. Many questioned whether enough resources were being allocated to identify and address mental health issues in students. Calls for increased funding for mental health services and early intervention programs echoed throughout the nation. The tragedy prompted a collective reflection on the societal factors that contribute to such acts of violence. Discussions centered around the influence of violent media, the impact of social isolation, and the need for stronger community connections. The Santa Fe High School shooting became a catalyst for a broader conversation about the root causes of gun violence and the steps that can be taken to prevent future tragedies. Pagortzis, who is now 22 years old, is facing charges of capital murder of multiple persons and aggravated assault of a public servant for his role in the shooting that claimed the lives of 8 students and 2 teachers and injured 13 others. He was committed to a state-run mental health institution in November 2019 and has been recommitted 4 times by the court. Defense attorney Nick Pohl Boal, objected to the judge's order, stating that Pogorzel's had already undergone a mental health evaluation last month and should not be subjected to another one so soon. However, the judge proceeded with the order, appointing Dr. Joseph Penn, Director of Mental Health Services at UTMB Health, to perform the upcoming evaluation. Dr. Penn was to spend up to 2 days at the North Texas State Hospital, where Pogorzel's is currently being held, to conduct the evaluation. He will then submit his findings to the court within 30 days. Another status conference in the case was scheduled for May 5th. The families of the victims have been left in the dark about the exact details of their loved ones' deaths, as medical examiners' reports and surveillance footage have been withheld by the Galveston County District Attorney's Office to ensure a fair trial if Pogorzel's is deemed mentally competent. However, a bill proposed in the Texas legislature may allow prosecutors to share this information with the families of deceased crime victims without making it available to the general public. As the legal proceedings continue, the community of Santa Fe and the families of the victims are still grappling with the aftermath of this tragic event. The memory of those lost remains a driving force in their ongoing efforts to create a safer and more compassionate society. Mitchell Johnson. Join me as I uncover the chilling details of the West Side Middle School shooting, a horrifying incident that took place in Jonesboro, Arkansas in 1998. This senseless act of violence, perpetrated by Mitchell Johnson and his accomplice Andrew Golden, resulted in the deaths of 4 innocent students and a teacher, leaving 10 others injured. It was a seemingly ordinary day in the quiet town of Jonesboro, Arkansas. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and students were eagerly making their way to West Side Middle School. Little did they know that this day would forever change their lives. Among the students was Mitchell Johnson, a troubled young man with a dark secret. Behind his innocent facade, Johnson harbored a deep-seated anger and resentment that would soon manifest in a horrifying act of violence. As the morning progressed, tensions began to rise within Johnson. The reasons for his anger and frustration remain unclear, but the signs were there. He had become increasingly isolated, withdrawn from his peers, and consumed by a growing darkness. Johnson's troubled behavior had not gone unnoticed by his teachers and classmates. He had become a loner, often seen brooding in the corners of the school, his eyes filled with a haunting emptiness. Behind closed doors, Johnson had found an ally in Andrew Golden, a troubled soul who shared his dark desires. Together, they hatched a plan that would forever scar the community of Jonesboro. In the days leading up to the shooting, Johnson and Golden meticulously gathered an arsenal of weapons. They had acquired handguns, rifles, and even a cache of ammunition, all in preparation for their sinister plot. On the morning of March 24, 1998, Johnson and Golden armed themselves with their deadly weapons. They concealed their intentions beneath their backpacks, blending in with their fellow students as they made their way to school. The clock ticked closer to the moment of reckoning. Johnson and Golden positioned themselves, ready to carry out their meticulously planned attack. And then, in an instant, the first shots rang out, shattering the tranquility of West Side Middle School. Panic and chaos ensued as students and teachers scrambled for safety, their lives forever changed by the senseless violence that unfolded before their eyes. As the echoes of gunfire subsided, the true extent of the devastation became painfully clear. The halls of West Side Middle School were now stained with the blood of innocent victims. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, chaos and confusion reigned. Students and teachers, gripped by fear and disbelief, sought refuge wherever they could. Some barricaded themselves in classrooms, desperately hoping for rescue. Others, injured and in shock, lay scattered throughout the school, their cries for help blending with the sirens that pierced the air. First responders arrived on the scene, their faces etched with determination. Police officers, paramedics, and firefighters worked tirelessly to secure the area and tend to the wounded. Their bravery and selflessness in the face of such horror cannot be overstated. Law enforcement officers meticulously combed through the school, searching for any remaining threats. Their focus was not only on apprehending the perpetrators, but also on ensuring the safety of those still inside. Every room was carefully cleared, every corner checked, as they worked to restore a sense of security. Ambulances lined the streets, their doors flung open as paramedics rushed to transport the injured to nearby hospitals. The wounded, their lives hanging in the balance, were whisked away, their fates uncertain. Finally, the moment came when Johnson and Golden were apprehended. Their reign of terror had come to an end, but the scars they left behind would forever haunt the survivors and the community. The media descended upon Jonesboro, their cameras capturing the grief-stricken faces of the community. The tragedy at West Westside Middle School became a national headline, shining a spotlight on the urgent need for measures to prevent such acts of violence in schools. The Westside Middle School shooting left an indelible mark on the community of Jonesboro, Arkansas. Beyond the immediate aftermath, the long-term impact of this tragedy would shape the lives of the survivors, the families of the victims, and the entire nation. In the years that followed, the community of Jonesboro embarked on a journey of healing and support. Counseling services were made available to those affected by the shooting, providing a safe space for individuals to process their trauma and grief. Support groups formed, offering a sense of camaraderie and understanding for those who shared a common experience. The Westside Middle School shooting ignited a fierce debate about the justice system and the treatment of juvenile offenders. The lenient sentencing of Mitchell Johnson and Andrew Golden sparked outrage, leading to calls for tougher laws and harsher punishments for those who commit acts of violence at a young age. The families of the victims faced an unimaginable loss, forever haunted by the absence of their loved ones. In a landmark decision, they were awarded $150 million, a symbolic victory that held the perpetrators accountable for their actions. Memorials were erected to honor the lives lost in the Westside Middle School shooting. The names of the victims were etched into plaques, their stories shared to ensure that they would never be forgotten. The memorials served as a place of reflection and remembrance, a testament to the resilience of the community. Devin Erickson. In order to truly understand the gravity of the STEM School Highlands Ranch shooting, we must first delve into the events that unfolded in the days, weeks, and months leading up to that tragic day. It was no secret that the school had been grappling with issues of bullying and violence. Concerns had been raised by students, parents, and even some faculty members about the toxic environment that seemed to permeate the halls of this once promising institution. Devin Erickson, a troubled student with a troubled past, found himself at the center of this storm. He had become a victim of relentless bullying, enduring taunts and physical abuse from his peers. The constant torment had taken its toll on Devin, leaving him isolated, angry, and desperate for a way out. As the pressure mounted, Devin's mental state began to deteriorate. He became increasingly withdrawn, his once bright spirit dimming with each passing day. It was during this time that he formed a bond with Alec McKinney, another student who shared his feelings of anger and frustration. Together, Devin and Alec began to hatch a plan. They would seek revenge on those who had tormented them, those who had made their lives a living hell. They would make a statement, one that would shake the very foundations of the school and the community. On that fateful day, Devin and Alec entered the school armed with weapons and a twisted sense of purpose. According to a student, Devin Erickson allegedly pulled out a gun and yelled, "Nobody move." Kendrick Ray Castillo jumped on him and was fatally shot in the chest. Erickson was then subdued and disarmed by two other students. This occurred in the high school section of the school, while McKinney targeted the middle school section and wounded 4 students before being tackled by an armed security guard. As the first shots rang out, chaos erupted throughout the school. Students and teachers alike scrambled to find safety, their once peaceful sanctuary transformed into a scene of terror and despair. The sound of gunshots echoed through the hallways, a chilling reminder of the danger that lurked within. Innocent students became victims in a senseless act of violence, their lives forever altered by the actions of 2 troubled individuals. The aftermath of the shooting was a scene of devastation. The school community was left reeling, grappling with the loss of 1 student's life and the injuries sustained by 8 others. The impact of this tragedy would be felt for years to come as the wounds, both physical and emotional, slowly began to heal. In the wake of the shooting, questions arose. How could this have happened? Were there warning signs that were missed? The community demanded answers, and the school administration was forced to confront the harsh reality that they had failed to create a safe and nurturing environment for their students. The STEM School Highlands Ranch shooting sent shockwaves throughout the nation, prompting a renewed debate on gun violence and mental health. It served as a stark reminder of the urgent need for increased school security measures and stricter gun control laws. As the trial and legal proceedings unfolded, the full extent of Devin and Alec's actions came to light. Alec McKinney pleaded guilty to multiple charges, while Devin Erickson faced a staggering 46 counts, including first-degree murder. The severity of their crimes demanded justice, and the court delivered a sentence that would ensure they would never again pose a threat to society. The STEM School Highlands Ranch shooting stands as a chilling reminder of the devastating consequences that can arise from a toxic combination of bullying, violence, and untreated mental health issues. It serves as a call to action, urging us all to take a closer look at the environments we create for our students and the support systems we have in place. The devastating loss of 1 student's life and the injuries sustained by 8 others demanded justice. The trial and legal proceedings that followed would be a crucial step towards closure and accountability. The courtroom was filled with tension as Devin Erickson and Alec McKinney, the perpetrators of this heinous act, faced the consequences of their actions. The trial would serve as a platform for the truth to be revealed, for the victims to have their voices heard, and for justice to be served. As the trial began, the prosecution presented a compelling case against Devin and Alec. The evidence was overwhelming, painting a vivid picture of the events that unfolded on that tragic day. Witnesses took the stand, recounting the horror they had experienced, the fear that had gripped them as they fought for their lives. Devin Erickson, once filled with anger and rage, now sat in the courtroom, his demeanor changed. The defense attempted to paint a picture of Devin and Alec as victims themselves. They argued that their actions were a result of the bullying and torment they had endured. While this may have provided some context, it did not excuse the violence they had unleashed upon their fellow classmates. As the trial progressed, the full extent of the charges against Devin and Alec became clear. Devin faced a staggering 46 counts, including first-degree murder, while Alec faced multiple charges as well. The severity of their crimes demanded a thorough examination of the evidence and a fair trial. The courtroom was filled with emotion as the families of the victims shared their impact statements. They spoke of the lives that had been forever altered, the dreams that had been shattered, and the void that could never be filled. Their words were a powerful reminder of the human cost of this tragedy. After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated, carefully considering the evidence presented to them. The weight of their decision was immense, as they held the power to determine the fate of Devin and Alec. In the end, justice was served. Alec McKinney pleaded guilty to multiple charges, accepting responsibility for his role in the shooting. Devin Erickson, on the other hand, faced a trial that would determine his fate. The jury, after careful consideration, found him guilty on all counts. The sentencing phase of the trial was equally intense. The courtroom was filled with anticipation as the judge prepared to deliver the punishment that would befit the severity of their crimes. Alec McKinney received a sentence of life imprisonment, ensuring that he would never again pose a threat to society. Devin Erickson, facing the consequences of his actions, awaited his fate. The judge, recognizing the gravity of his crimes, delivered a sentence that would ensure he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Devin was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 1,282 years. The courtroom was filled with a mix of relief, sorrow, and a sense of closure. The trial and legal proceedings provided a platform for the victims to have their voices heard, for the truth to be revealed, and for justice to be served. We are at the end of our video. If you enjoyed it, click on the cards showing on your screen to watch more videos like it.